Times list bestseller simultaneously. Him, Malcolm Gladwell, Michael Lewis, and Brene Brown. So pretty rarefied company. I'm Jeff Moody, jeffmoodymd.com. This is the Burnout Breakthrough live stream. And today what we want to do is get people talking about burnout. And the reason that I wanted to have Tucker on is because Tucker's, I think, new mission in life for the last 5 or so years, and he'll tell you more about it, is to get the knowledge out of your head and to get it in a book so other people can benefit from it. One of the best things when I was on their website initially, and I'm writing my book with Tucker, is, you don't want to die with that information in your brain. Get it out in the world so people can help. So, Tucker, thrilled to have you here. The first most important question I have for you is, although Obama was a lefty, could he go to his right? And I know that's your favorite interview question to ask. And that's where we were asking it. But,
yeah, so those of you who don't know, I was at the University of Chicago as an undergrad when Obama was a law professor. And he used to play ball every day in the field house, and so did I. And so, I mean, I literally used to play pickup with the president, the future president, every day. And it's so funny because there were like 3 or 4 law professors who played, Richard Epstein, a few others. And if you told me, I would not have guessed Obama. Nothing against him. It's just, I wouldn't have thought Obama. He just seemed like a pretty quiet, laid back guy, like at least at basketball. But no, man, like I guarded him heavily to go to his right. And he was, you got to remember, I was like 20, 21 and he was like in his 40s. So it was like I would bait him to go right, and then I would love because he was
on the left-hand side of the court. You're like, come on,
yeah. He was easy to guard. I mean, he was a good player especially for a law professor. He was the best by far, but he was pretty easy to guard.
Well, and you were in your prime. You were in your prime,
right? Basketball prime.
Yeah, exactly. So the real big question, and this the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is, I feel like. One of the things that really struck me at the end of our time at Scribe, Tucker does this great thing. It's like why Jeff Moody's book matters. And that kind of blew up my world because I had not really thought about the book in that way or burnout in that way. But it was the secondary effects that you talked about that you were going to like, what are the secondary effects of this book you're going to write? And I'm like, and I had, I'd been so much in my head about it. I've only ever thought about well, it's kind of therapy for me and maybe 1 or 2 doctors will get some benefit out of this. But you really brought that home. And I feel like that was huge for me. And true or false, is that kind of what drives you as far as the whole book industry and your kind of your mission at Scribe?
Yeah. So do you remember what I said?
I watched the video last night.
Tell everyone, you don't have to get the whole thing, but give the thing that resonated most with you, and then I'll take the rest of the question.
Well, okay. The 2 things that resonated most with me about the comment that you made was, number one, I, prior to writing the book and about 5 years ago, had actually thought about suicide. And he's like, why would anyone think this rich, successful doctor would think about suicide? I think just because I'd gotten so burned out and had things beaten out of me. But then your second thing was, dude, which is how every sentence with Tucker starts, dude, do you ever think about the secondary effects? Like how many people you're going to help if you help this doctor? How many patients are they going to help? How many family members are they going to help? And it was that kind of blew my mind. So those were kind of the 2 things that
I mean, well, think about it, man. So you, whatever it was, 5-10 years ago, you're a rich, successful doctor with your own practice, doing everything that you've got the life that every doctor thinks they want, and you hated yourself and wanted to kill yourself. Right. Yeah. And then my question to you is, how many doctors are like that? And you were like, all of them. Basically, you're like, about all of them. Right?
At some point, it's not right. Every day, but yeah.
Right. And so I was like, okay, so you made it out. How many don't? Yeah. And you were like, oh God. And then you started to kind of understand a lot don't. Either they stay miserable or they kill themselves or they punish themselves or their family or whatever. There's a million things, right? Yeah. And I was like, okay, so let's say your book impacts 10,000 doctors and saves the life of just 100 of them, right? Just those 100 people, what happens to their families? What happens to the practices? What happens to the people who work at the practices? And then the other 10,000, what the ones that weren't going to kill themselves, but would be miserable. What happens to them? Yeah. Right. And you were like, oh my God, you're right. Like this book means a whole lot more. It's way beyond me. And
it's
so
the law of large numbers, it's like if you make a 1 degree change for 1 million people, it's like an unbelievable total amount.
Or a 10 degree change for 1,000 impactful people, right? Like seriously, you could make a 10 degree change for 1,000 doctors, and that can fundamentally change the course of healthcare in this country. Not to mention the lives of everyone that those doctors touch, which are millions of people, right?
You're getting me a little verklempt here,
Well, no, but seriously, like a 10 degree change in 1,000 doctors is easily within your abilities. That's not like, oh, I got to go be Oprah or Obama. No, you don't. You just have to talk about what you know to people who will listen to you, who need what you know, right?
Well,
well, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like right before we got on, my sister-in-law texted me. She's like, oh, I didn't even know you wrote a book. That's so great. I have a friend who's an oncologist who's totally burned out. She's like, I gave her your website. I'm like, holy crap. Like everybody knows somebody that's kind of burned out. Oh, by the way, start a watch party if you guys want to, if you can. Start a watch party. Go to Jeff Moody, MD on Facebook. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog. Come on in. We're talking about burnout. We're trying to get things better. So, but I mean, and then last week we put up my website. The next day, one of my nurses called me about her husband, who's a physician who's having these issues. And we talked for 30 minutes on Monday about it.
My wife's an NP. And so in Texas, she doesn't have free practice. So she knows a ton of physicians because she's got a bunch of businesses because she's an entrepreneurial NP, which is like the weird thing. Like no one, but anyway, she knows a bunch of doctors, and every single one, I've been like, you need to read this guy's book because they all hate their jobs and their lives, right? Even if they love being a doctor and helping people and whatever, they're all burnt out. Like for all the reasons you point out, the system, the way everything, it's all set up. And so your question was, is that why you do this? And the answer is yeah, because like, I'm not going to reach those doctors. Why would they ever listen to me? I have nothing to tell them about burnout, right? And there's a million other problems that I have no expertise or capability to help solve. But what I can do is help the people who can solve them, reach the people who need their knowledge. That's the thing I can do.
You're a connector. Yeah, you're a connector. Right. You're a facilitator. Yeah,
we're getting close to 2,000 books now of people just like you. Some people are going to deeply impact 100 people, and some people are going to deeply impact 100,000, and some more like Goggins, and most of them in between. And so that impact becomes, dude, there's nothing more depressing to me than to meet someone who's really smart and really wise and really has something of value for others and can't get it to them.
Right.
And I can't do anything like, you meet someone like an old grandmother who makes jams and they're amazing. And you're like, these should be in every Whole Foods. That's not my field. There are people who do that. But I feel that way about like ideas, like someone who like, my God, your ideas could change the lives of X people or Y people or Z people. I can help them get those ideas out of their head and into the heads of the people I can help.
Yeah, and that was actually like part of the workshop when we were there for a couple of days in Austin, which was amazing last year. That where you were like, you have to make a choice. Are you going to be a storyteller, or are you going to be a disruptor? And I think I felt kind of at the end of that discussion, I was like, I think I'm going to be better at being a storyteller than being a disruptor, and trying to just get the information out there first. Then maybe the system needs to be disrupted. But right. Yeah, and you said you're like, system change is hard. And it takes time, and so that's we got to start.
We're seeing that now, though. Man, we didn't know what was coming, did we? Good Lord. No, that's true. A lot of systems are changing real fast right now.
And the thing I always think about too is like whenever you do something like this, or whatever you do, or whatever we do, physicians do, it's like I kind of feel like there's the financial rewards, and then there's like the psychic rewards. And to me, the psychic rewards are worth 10 times more than the
Yeah,
financial.
but you can't know that until you're rich.
Exactly.
No, and I'm saying that as someone who, like, I didn't start writing because of the psychic rewards or the psychological benefits. I started writing because it was the only thing I was good at, and I thought I would make some money. And then I started making money. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then I had 5 times as much money as I thought I would ever need to be happy. And I was like, I'm miserable. Like, having money is way better than not having money, but it solves like 10% of the issues. At best, 10%.
Yeah. It allows you to facilitate the other part to get happy.
Yes.
So
You can't buy happiness, but you can definitely, it definitely helps when you don't have to worry about rent or food.
Right.
True,
okay,
100%.
So I got a question for you. Do you think you've ever been burned out?
Oh, hell yes.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
How did you know, and what did you do to get out of it?
It's funny. It's funny we're doing this. No, it's funny we're doing this right now because I was pretty burnt out at the beginning of July, end of June, beginning of July, like just recently. And it's funny. People are like, oh yeah, COVID. It wasn't COVID. Like, COVID was great for my business. Like, we have had nothing but record months the last 5 months, and then the team was doing great. And I actually, like I was joking with Jeff, I like my family. So spending more time with them was like great for me. I had no problem with it. And we have a big house, thank God. And so like we have room, like, you know, I have this library and all this nonsense. So like I definitely had a lot of good stuff. I got burnt out because 5 years of doing this company. And it was like, I was just tired of it. You know, not of the mission,
the routine
right? It was like the same stuff over and over, and it's like having huge impacts on people, and it's great. But like, I finally had a team. You know what it was? I probably was tired of it a couple of years ago in a certain way, but finally we had a team where like a CEO. I'm not the CEO, and I've got a baller executive team now, and it's like all these people whose life mission is like to be in the role that they're in, and they're nailing it. And so like, I finally had the time in this space to admit to myself that like I was burned out. Right. And most of it was my fault. Like, I was pushing myself too hard. Like I was not a doctor in a medical system that is dehumanizing, right? Like, doctors don't build the medical system. You kind of have to take the system as it is. I built this company. So like it was actually harder for me to admit I was burnt out because it's like, well, whose fault is that, jerk? It's yours. And so I had to really look at that. And I had to really kind of sit back. And I've kind of actually taken the last 2 months off almost. Not literally, like I still work like a couple hours a day and do this or that, but I've done almost no major projects. I've done really almost nothing to give myself kind of the time and the space to understand, okay, what is it? First off, what was I doing to burn myself out? Then why, right? Like, why was I pushing myself so hard? Because it wasn't to make the company a success. I care about that, but I can do that without grinding myself into the dust. So why was I doing that? And of course, the answer is any distraction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, work, sex, any addiction, any distraction, a phone, right? The answer is you're running from an emotion you don't want to face. And it doesn't have to be about what you're talking about, right? Like, I didn't have a lot of negative emotions about work. Like I love the workshops, you know, like when I sit with people like you and help them with that, those are great. Those are fantastic. And so then I had to, like, the last couple of months, I've been like, because I've done all this emotional work, therapeutic work over the last 3 to 5 years, 2 years, the last 2 years especially. And I'm like, part of me was like, okay, I'm past the hard part. Then as soon as you think that, it's always like, oh,
I'm much better. I'm all good.
Then here comes the next layer, and it's like, nah, yeah, good luck. And so like all this stuff came up the last 2 months where it was like, okay, like, or it's starting to really come up because I finally gave space, right? So the short answer is I was burning myself out as a way to avoid feeling things I didn't want to feel.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you made it to the other side, or you're making it to the other side. I mean, it's a process. And the thing I talk to people about, and I'm like, look, there's no cure. it's kind of a recovery. Like it's kind of being like a recovered addict is the way I think, because there are things will come up, life will present situations where like it's going to smack you in the face again, and you need to recognize this is happening, and then you need to use your tools, use your use your words, use the things that that had helped you get through it. I mean, my thing was ego. I had to be the #1 producer in my practice. I mean, nobody told me that. I didn't. I mean, it was strictly ego. And then if you dig a little deeper, really, it's kind of like I needed to feel valued. I think it was really what it was. And so you just got to keep kind of peeling that onion, and then eventually you get to the point where like, you know what, I can still be a really good doctor, and I can take Friday off, and it's awesome. And my wife loves it, and we have 3 days in a row where we can like be together, and it's great. So it's you're not a bad person if you recognize that you have limitations, and then there are other things in your life that are valuable.
You're not a bad person if you take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
No, seriously, self-care is not indulgent. Self-care is not narcissistic. Self-care is not ignoring other people. Self-care is not disregarding others. Self-care is just recognizing that you are a valuable person as well, and that you deserve at least the amount of care and attention you give others, at a minimum.
And that's, I just, as a physician and knowing lots of physicians, the last person you consider is yourself. And you never use any of your advice that you give other people to you. Never. You're like, oh, you need to rest, you need to exercise. Baloney.
Right. And then you're eating terrible, not exercising, no sleep.
It's a very, I think it's such a altruistic / toxic / financial trap that people get themselves into, that you just got to start backing yourselves out of it. And there's lots of different ways to do it, but that's what we talk about over at jeffmoody.com and on the Facebook page, all this stuff. We're basically, my bottom line is I want to give people the services that they need, and whatever that is. If that's with me, great. If that's with you, if they want to write a book, fabulous. I can't recommend Tucker highly enough. Everybody has a great book in them, and they need to get it out of them. My thing is I want to make sure that people are getting value, bottom line. So question for you, kind of your progression through your career, do you feel like it was kind of like intentional, or is it kind of organic? Or
Man, I wish I was smart enough to design all this. Wouldn't that be great? If I was like a genius puppet master? No, man, of course not. No. None of it. If it was intentional, I would have avoided a whole hell of a lot more mistakes, man.
Life.
No, man. It was like, there's very few things I've done that truly are intentional. Like hiring a CEO is a big one. There's a few others. Almost everything is either a reaction to circumstance, a reaction to feeling, an accident, a coincidence. No, dude. Yeah, right.
Cool.
No, like, don't let a lot of people feel like, oh yeah, like, because they look at everyone else's story going backwards, and it looks like it's been designed, right? It wasn't. Nothing about Elon Musk's life or Jeff Bezos's life or my life or pick anyone successful was designed. You just hear about them because they're successful, right? You don't hear about the ones that aren't successful. You don't even look at your own life that way, even though you can if you want. Like if you decide, all right, I want my life to be X, it's entirely possible almost every single time to create that life, right? Of course, there are exceptions. Like if I say, I want to be a starting point guard on the Lakers, I'm probably not going to do that, right? But there's anything mildly, remotely realistic I can create. Like this is a lot of what I've spent the last 2 months doing, is realizing my life is fantastic and amazing in most ways, but I'm burnout in some ways, and figuring out how am I going, what are those ways, and then how am I going to change my life so that reconstruct my life in a lot of ways so that I can remove that. So I'm not running from my emotions, and I'm not burning myself out, right? And then, I did. Now I'm in the process of doing it. I got to reconstruct, and it's crazy. Like a lot of it is, it's weird, man. It's like,
like a thought experiment almost. It's like,
so
a life of creation and intention versus a life of kind of reaction.
Right. So the more I mature, the more I realize the idea is true that you create your life with your thoughts. And I don't mean that in like a spiritual manifestation way. Like if I think this table's a bad, it becomes a bad or something. That's nonsense. I mean it like the way that what you believe and what you think become your reality, right? Through your actions and through your behaviors and through all that kind of stuff. And it's like, it's one of those things where I was like, yeah, okay, of course, I get that. But then like, once you start unpacking that, it's like all fundamentals. It's extraordinarily deep and complicated and, like dispositive. Like it becomes the way that you look at the world. And so my wife and I really started doing this about a year ago, really thinking, what do we want our life to be? Like on not a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, month-to-month, year-to-year, what do we want our life to be? And then constructing that. You know, like she decided she wanted a really successful primary care practice and she's built that. I decided I didn't want to like have to, work that much at Scribe. Like I wanted to do the things I like doing and that's it. So like two days a week. I'm kind of there right now. We decided we wanted a vacation home in the mountains. Like good on the list, right? Like things that like
that's very cool.
That like, but then you realize it's like, okay, this is not just goal setting. It's not just like I need to decide, like I'm going to get up every day at 6 a.m. or whatever. It really is a matter of I am going to picture the life I want. I'm going to, and then I'm going to figure out how to get that and then start moving towards it, but not, I didn't think I had to construct everything and make it be like an engineering plan. Like I'm not building a bridge, like you build a bridge, everything needs to be done exactly right. Building a life is a lot different. It's about, like for us, we've learned to set the intention and then to move towards that intention, but not try and construct and plan everything along the way and kind of let things happen. And ever since we started doing that, man, things have gotten really good.
True or false? Do you feel like everything gets a lot more simple? You're like a lot of stuff falls away. The way I kind of think this almost is like this is you use a different lens to look at the world, and then like things that would come at you and you'd say, oh yeah, I'll do that. And you're like, no, that doesn't fit. That doesn't fit that's not the way I'm looking at things anymore. I'm looking at it this way, and that's just not a priority, and I'm not going to do it. It makes the decision-making process much easier too.
It does. Most people don't have priorities and they don't have desires. They adopt things that they're told that they should want. And that's our parents' generation. That's the consumerist baby boomers. Oh, I'm supposed to have a lot of stuff. And then they're all 70 and like, this sucks. Right? And so like we grew up with that. So we kind of saw, okay, this isn't really what we want. And our kids even more so. But it's funny, man. Like I think a lot of busyness is a trauma response. It's like distraction and busyness, the same thing, right? It's like if I'm busy or distracted, I don't have to feel my emotions, And so simplicity is actually it's very easy to have for most everybody. They don't want to have it because if their lives were simple, they would have to feel emotions they don't want to feel. At least that was true for me, 100%. Like I'm talking about my wife. That was my wife and I in our lives. But as soon as we started doing our emotional work and feeling our emotions, we naturally just cut the complexity out, and we have very simple lives now in the best way.
We have a question from somebody who's on the live stream. The question is, what would Tucker say is the best way to change the mindset that causes guilt when you prioritize taking care of yourself?
Ask yourself why. No, therapy. And the therapeutic process of very specific. Why? Why am I feeling guilty? At some point, somewhere in your life, someone has told you that you either weren't important or that for some reason it's bad for you to take care of yourself. So and this might be really difficult, and maybe no one told it to you explicitly. It might just have been that your parents learned this from their parents and you learned it by example from watching them. And they might have loved you and been amazing parents, but they felt that way and you adopted that from them. Or they could have been shitty parents. Like it could go either way, right? But like it could have been something you learned implicitly or explicitly, but some reason somewhere deep down you have that belief.
Yeah, like modeling or something where like you got the message that like if I take care of myself, then I'm being selfish or whatever. Right. But it's some sort of that is a very very waspish kind of thing, which I'm sure I had a lot of growing up. But I just feel like at the end of the day, it's all about constructing the life. But I think one of the advantages of being a physician is you are so busy from a work standpoint. It allows you to then not have, I don't have time to feel those feelings, to take care of yourself, to know about it. And I think some people love medicine because that is the ultimate avoidance mechanism for them.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
Awesome. I can be busy and help other people and I'm doing a great thing, but I'm like killing myself in the process.
Same reason I'm in a bunch of entrepreneur masterminds. Same reason a lot of people love entrepreneurship. Like I can't tell you how many people have friends of mine who sold their companies for like $500 million and then like are nearly suicidal 3 months later.
The next day they're like, what the hell, what, wait, right? What?
No, I mean, seriously, nearly suicidal because like, and so then you're going to start. Everyone I know who's a serial company starter is someone running from emotions without exception. Now, that being said, you can be emotionally healthy and still have ambition. It just comes from a very different place and it looks very different.
Okay. Another question from the live stream. How do you start simplifying your life?
You have to start with what you want.
Yeah.
The first question, what do I want? So like literally my wife and I sat down, we went on a road trip, just her and I, and to like beautiful places we loved. And literally just, what do you want? What do I want? Like she's, what do you, like we both answer that question. And then for ourselves first, then together, right? And we pictured that life. And it was like, all right, let's cut everything that does not get us there or that's not part of that. And then it became really easy.
And I also feel like a lot of physicians get trapped into, I kind of say that you have a ton of debt when you come out from medical school, whatever, and you get on a treadmill of your own choosing, because I have all this debt and then I've denied myself everything for decades because of the training. Now I want to have a nice house and a nice car, whatever. And they build up this lifestyle to match their
golden income. Handcuffs.
Yeah. I call it being the golden handcuffs on the golden treadmill. You're handcuffed to the golden treadmill. You're freaking, then you're like running until you collapse or, your arm gets ripped off of the treadmill. I mean, that's what they see modeled from other physicians. And the first thing I tell people when we're talking about this, I'm like, let's maybe A, reprioritize exactly like you suggest, and B, let's match your spending to your priorities. Like, do you really need whatever XYZ house? Do you really need this car? Do you really need all those things that are making you nuts and cost a lot of your life energy and your money? Let's dial that back and then have a simpler life. I'm like, I love that.
Those are all techniques and they're fantastic techniques. They all work. But all of this starts with, what do you want? Because most people have actually never stopped and thought about what they want or what their needs are, or never. They have never stopped and thought about it. Really thought about it and really answered that question. Like I'm about as independent thinking and sovereign as a person gets in America. And even when I stopped and said, what do I really want, realized that there were levels way deeper than I had ever considered for myself. Right. So like that question gets very deep when you actually sit with it in stillness and really think about it. I realized, at least for me, and this is different for everybody, the only thing I really cared about, there's only a few things. I cared about spending time with my wife and my kids, right? I cared about us having some land to spend time on, like animals and farming and that kind of stuff. And I don't mean like convention. I just mean like to actually be connected to land with people I love and care about. And then I cared about like doing work that mattered to other people. you know? So like what I do now. And so like once, then I had so much shit in my life that I was like, this is cool or whatever, but this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it was, I cut out like a third of the stuff. It was like immediately I had 10 hours a week that were like, whoop, there you go. Right there. And then like an idiot, I spent half that time on something else. So I had to come back to the exercise and do it again. It's like, okay. And then now 90% of my week is with my family. I should say with my family, with self-care or work I love. That's at least 90% of every week.
That is awesome. That like, and people say, oh, it's easy for you. You're a successful author. You know, you just like, it just, you know,
it's
like
harder. The more successful you get, the harder it is to do this.
Oh yeah. I'm like, I think, I always feel like everybody has the same problems. Everybody has the same struggles, and money just allows you to change maybe your response. Or if you're having, you know, problems, it'll make your problems much worse. If you were abusing drugs, now you can abuse much more expensive drugs. You know,
and more of them.
Yeah, and I can go to another country and do it in, you know, and abuse drugs. So it's just, I think money just makes you more of what you already are.
Yes, 100%.
So, you know, if you're good, it'll make you great. If you're not,
the only people who think money solves problems are people who've never had money.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that to put anyone down. If you think that's the solution, go make a bunch of money and you'll learn the same thing Jeff and I learned. Because I used to think that. I'm like, when I'm rich and famous, everything will be great. And I got rich and famous and it wasn't great.
This is the same. This is the same. This is what needs to change.
If you don't change, it's like, look, the way I say it, it's sort of like, we all know that whether it's a girl or a guy, we all know that person who's like, I keep dating assholes. I don't know why. It's like, well, there's only one thing that's common in all those relationships, right? It's the same thing with whether it's money or status or prestige or whatever it is. Like you can get all of whatever it is you think you're missing externally, load up on it. Like you're at a buffet. You're still going to be empty inside because it's never an external issue ever. It's never an external issue. And unless you're starving to death. Okay, there you go. You're right. If you don't have any food, then it is an external issue. Otherwise, it's not.
Well, I didn't think we were going to delve into the depths of your psyche during this today. But I really appreciate it. I want to be respectful of your time. I think we're close to our time. If you got to go, I totally understand. But, you know, anybody else, any last questions in the live stream? Anything else that we can help people with? If not, we got to give like 10 thumbs up and a great thank you to Tucker Max for spending the time. Burnout Breakthroughs, we want to get the message out. That's the bottom line. We want to get the message out. We want to normalize this conversation. We want to get docs and other professionals. I went down to the bottom of my hill and gave a copy of my book to a business owner yesterday because she posted that she was so burned out she didn't know what to do, and I'm like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. You know, I'm like, it's just it's unfortunately super pervasive. So I got to thank Tucker for doing this for me. Tucker's one of the most kind, generous.
You did the work, brother. I didn't. All I did was provide the container. You did the work.
You kept me accountable. You're the accountability king too. So anybody who wants to write a book, you've got to do it with Tucker and Scribe Media. It's the way to go. And if you have burnout issues, we're happy to help. We're happy to get you to the right place. So thanks again. Really appreciate it. And then I just, you know, let's get burnout recovered for everybody. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you in the next live stream.